Greetings, Sir Florence. It is.
Welcome back to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, so this is basically like our podcast.
We have
Adele.
Alyssa.
Together we are double A. Yeah.
And this is our merch.
Anyway, we have a very limited time to talk about these literatures. So first we're going to start with Andrew's. We don't
say et decorum est. Oh, I searched that up. It means...
It is sweet and proper to die for your country.
Hey, wait, I was ready. It is sweet and proper to die for your country.
Yes. Becky told us that that is a Latin term. And I think immediately off of that, we can just get a glimpse into what the poem is going to be, or the story, whatever it is, it's going to be about, because it's automatically going to be about war. Because why else would it connote anything else? So that's what I just immediately got from the title. Then as we go through like the first few lines, you're talking about the imagery that the author uses: bent double like old beggars under sacks, knock-kneed, coughing like hags.
Men marched to sleep. Many had lost their boots. Talking about just what he's seeing while at war, like at camp.
Yeah, and I think it really just illustrates the idea of like what's truly going on. And like the imagery of what, like, these men are tired, they're exhausted, and they're trying to persevere through hardships for their country.
Like, drunk with fatigue, death even to the hoots of gas shells dropping softly behind. It's like, it's something that they commonly hear. So.
Yeah. And, that's just really what happens with, like, the first...
Technical difficulties.
Sorry. And that's just what we, like, kind of just, like, saw through the first 3 paragraphs-ish. And then, like, towards the last paragraph, there's, like, a tone or, like, a mood switch, where we see, like, in the structure of it, there's more commas, which
I saw this as his... I thought this part he was watching someone die. Or he was dying.
I'm not sure. To me, it looked like a PTSD dream.
Well, I thought the whole thing was him reliving it through PTSD.
No, yeah, I definitely think it was an image of him when he lost a comrade. I just noticed how, like, the commas would...
In all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, and drowning.
Yeah, definitely. I think that. I just thought that as the story got more intense, the narrator was starting to get more anxious, and then the commas started to arise more, and then it became significantly more descriptive. And then as the last line, it, like, hints back to the title, the old lie, dulce, and all that. I think it just displays that this person obviously resents being a soldier or going into the forces in the first place.
It has a great trauma from war, especially seeing someone. He watched the white eyes withering in his face hanging like a devil's sick of sin. So as it starts to, like, grow more intense, I'm seeing that, like, this is, like, a prominent memory of his that he watched, like, watching someone die, especially, like, a comrade. Like, that's how I saw it. So that's why. And then that's why it is a sneed and fitting to die for one's country. So that's why I think he put that at the end after he saw one of his friends dying. It's supposed to be like, oh, like, you dying for your country is supposed to be a good thing, but they don't necessarily talk about the after effects of war, because a lot of soldiers end up with PTSD. Like, one sound snaps them back into war, and a lot of them, like, hurt other people because they're just so instinctively ready for war.
Yeah. Well said. Now we want to move to the next one. Disabled.
So I saw this as how he was talking about, like, how himself in war and, like, the things of war, and he was looking at, like, with these boys that they were playing outside. He can't do that anymore. Like, he can't feel, like, those same emotions anymore because of what happened to him at war. And it felt like he was comparing himself constantly to other people, and how people now see him as, like, a fragile, like some queer disease. So he feels like he's just, like, an outsider compared to everyone else, and he didn't even really understand why he joined into the war. and he didn't understand why people like hyped it up so much that, oh, I'm a soldier and I'm going to the military to fight for my country, because he feels like he's an outsider now compared to being like a war hero.
Yeah, I think I definitely got that same, specifically like throughout the entire thing, like in the first paragraph where he's like he was at a park or off somewhere and he heard little boys running around, and it's from there he was immediately jealous of the boys that had the opportunity or the ability to run around, and then from there, like, the author reveals to us that his true intentions were to go to the war because of females and because he liked that attention, which kind of brings up the question of, like, why is it important to do things that are good for you and not for what other people think about you? Because of the fact that he chose to go because of women, he lost a lot of his limbs, and now women are no longer interested in him. Like, as we skip to the last paragraph, he's now miserable and he wants to die because what he was living for, essentially women, are no longer feeding into him the same way he's feeding into them, and now he feels as though he doesn't have a purpose over his life. So I noticed that how he's deteriorating mentally because he no longer has that affection, and I think that just highlights, like, or just applies like a critical lens to, like, human psyche and why it's important to do things for yourself and not to think about what other people would think of you.
And he's so desperate for attention that when people do help him, it's really only to help him because he's disabled, but he craves that, and he takes whatever pity that is upon him. Okay. Now for the last one.
Yeah.
Soldier's Dream. Okay, I saw this. I was confused at first, but I saw it as like Jesus or like God doesn't necessarily want them to fight or something. Like, he doesn't necessarily like the violence that's happening.
I think
I was really confused.
Well, so I did a lot of annotations on this one, so I tried to take it like line for line because that's really like the easiest way for me to understand poems. So immediately from the title, Soldier's Dreams, there's a juxtaposition between those two words, because usually the life of a soldier is nothing but a dream. In fact, it's a nightmare most of the time where they have to go to war, and then having it next to the word dream, where dreams are supposed to be peaceful, filled with hope and kindness. I think that just kind of like implied or foreshadowed what was going to happen throughout the story. I see Jesus as a symbol of peace throughout the story, and within the first line of I dreamed kind Jesus fouled the big gun gears, I see it as like Jesus sabotaging like the machinery of war, kind of like a divine intervention against war. Okay. He's like,
well, I saw it as like, this is him talking about his dream that Jesus doesn't want any more violence. Not necessarily that he was going to just like he was doing something to machinery. That this was all like a dream, and that he was like more like that's what I mean.
Like he in his dream he wants Jesus like some sort of divine intervention to stop war, and then caused a permanent stoppage in all bolts and things like that. Just kind of like hinting back to the idea that Jesus is supposed to be gentle and his kindness is supposed to like melt down like the hardships of war. I saw in the third line where it says, and buckled with a smile, Mausers and Colts. I looked up what a Mauser is. It's a German rifle, and the Colts is an American pistol.
I looked that up too.
So it's like a fight between the Americans versus Germans. So it helped us get into a little bit psych of that. And I think just furthermore, the idea of, Michael, the Archangel of Justice, I learned that Michael is associated with warfare, and God is choosing force over peace, which is like kind of weird because Jesus is God's son, and you would think that God would agree with Jesus by taking the peace, but he decided to let Michael to take over the war and have justice served through battle rather than through love and forgiveness. So that's what I just kind of saw through that.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I already said.
Oh. Anyway, thank you for that. Listening to our tidbit. If you want these annotations, you know where to find us.
This podcast was a 10 out of 10, so that means 50 participation points.
10 minutes. God.